Why on-demand travel is going to be the most beneficial for our company, and then the different type of aircraft that would meet all of our needs. So this proposal is designed to showcase the benefits of adding a flight department within the company to help us expand our brand. The addition of a flight department is going to allow us to meet the travel demands of our CEO and other key members of the company that continue to have to travel around to different business meetings and business presentations. So the goal of the flight department is obviously going to be save time and then money while making the travel experience for the employees just as comfortable as possible. So on-demand travel is going to reduce travel time and time spent away from home, which is huge just for kind of a work-life balance. Owning a company aircraft is going to ensure that our hourly costs stay the same, opposed to trying to purchase last-minute airline tickets at an overpriced rate, just since they fluctuate all the time. So we see from this graph here that when flying on demand, our employees are only going to have about 12 overnight stays rather than the 63 overnight stays that they'd be having when traveling with the airlines. We also see that our CEO would be spending only 173.9 hours traveling compared to the 876.5 when traveling on an airline. Looking at a map that includes the company's expansion into Oklahoma, we see that the locations cover many destinations. Some of these destinations don't offer direct flight with an airline, so you may have to go way out of your way, pick up a connecting flight, have layovers, and other stuff like that. But with an on-demand aircraft, that doesn't become an issue. You can find an airport pretty much anywhere you need to go and go ahead and land. Our analysis shows that an on-demand company aircraft is going to reduce the travel time immensely. An airline travel would add up to about 876 hours per year, while on-demand travel would only be about 173.9. So this is going to allow our CEO and other key company members to spend more time doing business, more time meeting with people, more time being able to present whatever information they feel is going to help us expand, rather than spending it all traveling, waiting in lines, sitting at airport terminals. So this chart here shows that whether we own a company aircraft or opt in for a charter as our choice of on-demand travel, the time spent traveling is reduced to well under 300 hours per year. Time spent, or when thinking in terms of weeks, with on-demand travel, we spend about 2 weeks traveling, as opposed to 5 when using the airlines. So we're going to be focusing on the Phenom 300 and the King Air 350i. I've kind of narrowed it down to those two aircraft for the remainder of the presentation. So if we look at the time travel comparison chart, the Phenom 300, we're spending about 96 hours a year, and the King Air is about 295 hours per year. So like I said, after speaking with members involved in the financial aspects of purchasing a company plane, it was determined that the best move is going to be to purchase the airplane outright with a budget of $10 million. Obviously, they want to stay below that if they can, but they want to purchase it outright rather than financing it, having monthly payments. So, like I said, the two aircraft that I think we should focus on are the King Air 350i, which is pictured on the top, and the Phenom 300, which is on the bottom. So the purchase price for the King Air is just over $7 million, while the Phenom sits around the upper end of our budget at $9.5 million. So the cabins of both aircraft are pretty similar. The Phenom can carry 8 passengers and the King Air can carry 9. The Phenom does have a slightly larger cabin as far as volume goes at 429.8 cubic feet, while the King Air offers 421.2 cubic feet. So note that the Phenom does have a larger cabin but carries less passengers, which means it's going to be more spacious for those people that are traveling on the Phenom. So the Phenom has a slight edge in range with a 1,985 nautical mile range compared to the King Air's 1,560 nautical mile range. The Phenom also has a higher cruising speed of 383 knots, with the King Air only offering 235. The Phenom also has a higher ceiling of 45,000 feet, which is 10,000 feet higher than the King Air. This is going to allow us to fly higher and avoid weather that may have prevented the King Air from making a trip. So both aircraft are very fuel efficient compared to most on the market. The Phenom has a long range fuel burn equivalent to 757 pounds per hour of fuel, and the King Air is significantly lower at 362 pounds per hour of fuel. So we talked with members of the company and asked for some of their personal preferences, just to kind of help determine the best option for the company aircraft. We listed out different factors and scaled them from 1 to 4, with 4 being the most important. The graph shows us how each factor ranked given its score after putting it into our Excel chart. The cost was important to our company, obviously, so those factors that involved costs were given a higher score and hold the most value. Both airplanes have scores that are pretty similar in most categories. Cabin volume is the exact same. Purchase price favors the King Air a little bit, and then the range is going to favor the Phenom. So looking back at our city pair analysis, it would cost the CEO $84,000 and 876.5 hours to travel via the airlines. Now, in the business world, time is money, and incorporating an on-demand travel solution would prove to be extremely valuable. Looking at our fixed costs, the fixed costs for the Phenom add up to about $260,000, while the King Air adds up to $235,000. And then when you look at the cost per hour, Phenom is going to be about $2,455 an hour, and then the King Air is slightly less at $1,751. So when comparing the total costs of both aircraft we've been looking at and comparing it to chartering an aircraft for the same estimated hours, we see that purchasing an aircraft for the company makes for a much better decision. Owning and operating a Phenom 300 would cost around $769,000 annually, and the King Air would be about $724,000. If we did end up chartering an airplane, if we look at chartering a Lear 60, we'd be spending almost $1.5 million a year. So I recommend that the company chooses to incorporate an on-demand aviation team within the company and purchase a company aircraft. Owning a plane is going to save time and money and provide a more comfortable travel experience for those involved. I personally recommend going with the Embraer Phenom 300. Although it is at the higher end of the company's budget, the travel time will be less than the King Air, and the flight is going to be more comfortable for the passengers. The higher service ceiling will also allow for the company to fly above the weather that might prevent the King Air from making a trip. Plus, at the end of the day, being able to say that you own a private jet would be pretty cool.